A lot of people will regard the best Spider-Man game as Spider-Man 2 that released all the way back on PlayStation 2. But ever since the announcement of Marvel's Spider-Man with Insomniac Games at the helm, people have been really excited because they feel for the first time in, quite honestly, decades at this point, we're going to get a really good Spider-Man game. And after spending quite some time with it, I can definitely say that Marvel's Spider Man is 100% the best Spider Man game that's ever released, and potentially is the best superhero game that's ever been made today. In Marvel's Spider Man, you play as Spider Man, of course, or Peter Parker, and it takes place 8 years after he first dons the suit of Spider Man. And what this does then is it sort of gets over the origin story we've heard so many times from the movies, which have had three different iterations essentially now, and sort of moves things forward. Sort of it helps you ground in a different sort of story that you may be used to, and does a great job of not only sort of giving you everything you're used to seeing with Spider-Man in terms of characters and locations, but for those that may be completely blind to Spider-Man, or at least the characters that he would meet along the way or sort of within the world, it does a great job of introducing them, and some of them are kind of different to the movies or comic books, so even for them it does a great job of sort of putting them in the world in Insomniac's way and sort of building them into everything. And it's a really fun way to sort of maybe see characters that you're fully aware of or know of in a different way, but they do it in a sense that sort of doesn't feel jarring or sort of change for the sake of change. The story itself is written really well. I think that they do a great job of sort of building up these great set pieces where there's a lot of explosions going on and the city's being destroyed by, let's say, a helicopter that's got sort of like a trailer on the back of it that's acting like a wrecking ball destroying the city, and you've got to race after it. And then it can slow things down and sort of build upon the characters of Peter Parker, of MJ, of Aunt May, and other people he meets along the way. And it does a good job of sort of giving some hints to maybe upcoming maybe twists or turns in the story. It is, like I said, it's quite comic book standard. You won't expect sort of a different tone compared to anything you may be used to, but it does a really good job of grounding the characters, the story, the world, and introducing new elements to it in terms of threats that you meet. And it's sort of told really well. It's done really good. It's surprisingly well done. I wasn't expecting a lot. I was expecting the open world to take center stage, and it does, and I'll get to that now in a moment. But I think the story does a great job of keeping you invested all the way through. Introduces new elements, new types of things to do in the levels and the missions themselves. And then when it tells a story, it's acted very well, it's performed really well, it looks really good. It's a surprisingly good story. However, the gameplay is what takes center stage, and the swinging in Spider-Man is nothing short of spectacular. Developers Insomniac Games have kind of done a good job a lot with some of their recent games, like Sunset Overdrive comes to mind, where they just nailed movement in such a gratifying way, and they've done it again here in Spider-Man. So much more than any other Spider-Man game before. Like this isn't just swinging around the city. As you level up, you get new abilities or ways to sort of traverse everything. So it goes from swinging to zipping across to parkour to sort of jumping through little gaps and doing stunts as you free fall. And very quickly, like, I just fell into this routine of just exploring the city, swinging around, zipping around the city with no destination in mind. Like, I just wanted to fly around and do some awesome tricks, look really impressive doing it. And the game incorporates that in the sense of you could be perched on top of a big building, and then you jump off and this music kicks in, and it just feels so good to do it over and over again, and I never got tired of it. I spent like a large amount of time just exploring and swinging around and just taking it all in. Um, Visually, I played this gameplay footage you're seeing here, and what I played it on was just a base PlayStation 4, and it looks incredible. Like, it's something that I kind of want to see the game running in PlayStation 4 Pro, and hopefully I'll get to do that. But this is just base PS4 gameplay, and it looks incredible. And I think sort of what you may be surprised by is just how dense this city is. Like, I was really taken aback by just how like well they sort of include like the representation of Manhattan. It's really high, dense buildings, small roads, wide roads. It's easily the best representation of Manhattan, easily, but it's also one of the, probably actually not even just one of, it's probably the most densest city ever created in a game, and it's just spectacular when you take that moment. And I hope if you decide to play this game, to take a step back and just look at this world that's been created and how dense everything is. Nothing's perfect. I know sometimes when I was zooming in on certain things, some characters off in the distance would no longer be like, say, doing their walking animation. It'd actually be stuck in a T-pose and frozen. If I remember, I will actually show that up around here. But it's sort of, yeah, kind of got a bit unusual in certain parts. But that could be just pre-release. Could be all good by the time the game comes out. But otherwise, the city is incredible. The draw distance, the level of detail, no matter how far you look, looks great. And visually it's spectacular. I really hope to see it in PS4 Pro soon. But beyond swinging around, you will do a lot of combat and stealth missions, and on the surface level it may look like something like, let's say, the Arkham series, but you have a lot more. Like, you have the sort of elastic attack, as I call it, where you'll attack but your character will jump towards it. They will do it back, and that can get pretty frustrating. That's one thing I have to knock right away from the gameplay. As the combat is, especially against the tougher enemies that can take you down in a couple of hits, they can just suddenly like elasticate or magnetically go towards you, and where you might think that miss, because of that magnetic thing that happens, you get hit and you lose some health and you weren't ready for the dodge, and that can get pretty frustrating. But regardless, it's got that very quick, fluid motion. The animation is incredible, and it sort of stands out in the combat. But you have a ton of tools at your disposal and abilities. You start off simple enough. You've got your dodge, you've got your web shoots, but very quickly you'll unlock a lot of gadgets as well as new moves to pull off. When you level up, you can use your skill points to unlock new moves in combat, and it can really make things feel dynamic. Once again, it does that thing just like say swinging around the city. You can get into a sort of a routine, or at least a flow of combat, of using different abilities, using different gadgets, where things just feel really satisfying. And I think that's one of the best things about this game, is being Spider-Man just feels incredibly satisfying, and it hasn't been like that for a long time. But as you level up, like I said, you get new skill points, your stats go up, and one of the things I have to say, I meant to say it earlier with the swinging and all that, at the start movement didn't feel as satisfying as I wanted it to. But very quickly I leveled up. My swing speed got better, and as well as using new abilities to traverse, everything then fit into place. So at the start, if you don't feel 100% satisfied with it, it definitely kicks in pretty quickly. It only took like, say, half an hour to really start to see the difference in movement, but the animation is so good. Like I said, the combat is really fun. And this is definitely the Spider-Man game we've been waiting for a very long time. It's not perfect. Like I said, there are some things about maybe the combat, or even the world itself, sort of sometimes falling down a little, maybe due to just how unbelievably packed it is with population and density. But to be Spider-Man, to fly around and to just have an open world game, like, there's a ton of things to do, there's a ton of side things to do, and at the start it may feel like it's falling down that rabbit hole of doing things for the sake of doing things, but as you progress through the game, you unlock different types of activities, and each one feels different and challenges you in different ways. One of them could be just, hey, get around and fix these vents. Another one could be to get around at a certain speed, like speed challenges. Then there's others where you've got to stay at certain heights within levels. There's waves against enemies, so things are always mixed up enough where if you just want to experience more Spider-Man, you can experience more Spider-Man, and it doesn't get dull. The game does take around maybe just over 20 hours to complete, depending on how much side stuff you do, how long you just spend flying around or swinging around in this case. But I I wasn't pleasantly surprised because I was hoping it'd be really good, but I was surprised even by the sort of the levels that people were excited for it, that just how much I enjoyed playing it. I think it's an incredible game, and anyone who's really looking forward to this game will definitely not be disappointed.